John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down!
Come on.
Ready! Down! Set! Hut! 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 Hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
That's right. The first weekend of college football is now behind us. The Sooners win it 45-13 over UTEP, and it was a pretty easy one today on Owen Field. A hot one for sure, and I tell you what, Dylan Gabriel, check. He looked the part. I would say Oklahoma defense, check. They looked the part. We could talk about individuals, and we will, but we welcome in Josh McQuistion, who is joining us from home. And Eddie Radosevich here in studio is the Eskridge Lexus Postgame podcast is back in action. We want to thank Eskridge Lexus for being our title sponsor once again for yet another year. If only you knew how much work that we've put into the Eskridge Lexus Postgame podcast.
Every once in a while, I think, just like a football team, sometimes you need a test run.
I disagree.
No, it was a lot of fun today. I think that from a season opener point of view, from a new era point of view, this is exactly what Oklahoma
What
wanted.
did you think about the energy outside the stadium coming into the game?
I'll tell you what, I parked over in the Jenkins garage coming up before the game, and they were doing like the Walk of Champions or whatever. There's something that I think Brent has wanted to start here early, and I took one gander over there and went, that's a lot of people. I think I'm going to just go take a left on Lindsay and go straight into the stadium. It was very packed. It was a good turnout.
Yeah, and you saw Brent get out of the bus. John Shin, give him credit. He went down there and
he was in the mix over there.
He was right there in the front. He fought his way over there, and he got Brent coming out of the bus. A lot of energy, and he was fired up. He was pumping his fists. He was doing the OU chant with the crowd, and the energy just continued throughout the day. I think until. It got to be about, let's see, what was the scoring charge? I'm going to pinpoint the exact time. I'd say probably 42-10, and really it was even after halftime, but 35-10 maybe. The crowd started dissipating, at least on the east side, and there's a lot of fighting and on Twitter, and people like, this was embarrassing, and Joe C. needs to take away the student tickets. Like, it was legitimately miserable out there. I had my binoculars. I was just looking at the people that were left on the east side. They looked like they all needed medical attention.
It was, kudos to anybody that stayed on the east side through the middle of the third quarter, because it was absolutely miserable out there today.
And we've had a lot of rain this week, so it's super humid. I mean, Eddie, I'm just glad that you survived. You're a survivor again.
I did it.
You even got
add that to the resume.
I saw new what's the stupid orange cone? Not cone, but
we got a pylon.
New pylon pick.
I mean, honestly, it was a pretty good opener for myself because I got a pylon pick. I got I took a knee in the end zone.
I saw that
on a kickoff. Had a nice ovation from my friends over in the north end zone. So I would give myself kind of a passing list and a passing. And I survived. So you missed out on a lot, Josh.
Yeah, I don't know that I had a chance to tell you, Eddie, but you showed up pretty prominently on national television when.
Did I? Good.
Yeah. Because I was watching. Tiffany, I think, has taken a real shine to you with that move. She goes, "Was that Eddie?" And so we had to go back and look, and it was most certainly you with taking a knee in the end zone. So
100%.
It caught you. It caught you just at the tail end there. So.
Do you think you'll ever top your wave at the Cotton Bowl?
Oh, on the big score? Mm-hmm. No, probably not. Between that and the Kansas State band incident, probably not. Those are probably two of the better moments outside of the bitch at the bus stop. But it was a culmination of a long 9 months, and OU passed with flying colors today.
Speaking of which, parking in my parking lot, I crossed paths with a man named Chris Foshi, sporting your Make Lindsay Street Again T-shirt. He's very proud.
A great Figam in his own right.
He was working hard. The shirt had gotten kind of dirty. He said he brought a backup for the game just in case. I'm going to say he probably had to put on the backup.
There you go. It was cool to see a bunch of the shirts and like the U40 hats. I saw a couple of those walking in this afternoon. So it was really cool, and it was kind of a culmination of the beginning of the Brent Venables era, which I thought was really funny before the game. That any time that he was showed on the big screen, it was like
he definitely got. How about this? Real accurate starting lineups.
Yeah, I noticed that.
How about that shit?
That was awesome.
Like, like they didn't beat around the bush and put Wanye Morris up there like some people would have done in the past.
Sure. It was.
You knew that lineup. Now you can trust the lineup every week. Like if you see like DJ Graham is going to start instead of Jaden Davis, like that happened. Like they turned that in.
First quarter, I thought that was about as good of a start to as you could possibly have imagined. Between the offense obviously taking the opening series and just going right down the field and getting a 3-and-out.
It was the first kind of Baker Kyler-esque first quarter that we've seen.
Sure, it felt right.
Since then.
It felt right.
You go up 21-0, you pretty much have done everything perfectly.
No, I think that's fair. And, Jeff Lebby said it after the game, but...
By the way, they took the ball to win the toss.
I thought that was interesting that they, it doesn't really matter to me either way, but I thought it was interesting
We
that they
forgot to
wanted
ask
the ball
Brent
early.
why they did that. Like, obviously the answer, but you just want to hear him talk about it.
I think he wanted to, go down, score, get the crowd into the game, ignite the stadium, and they kind of did that. And, obviously defensively... I thought it was a really solid performance overall. You give up 13 points. Obviously, you keep them out of the end zone. They score one touchdown, but it's kind of a scumbag move, kicking a field goal down by 29 or 33 points. But
what was a 49-yarder?
The UTEP
54-yarder?
Yeah, the UTEP wanted to get back underneath the number before you went back down and kick a field goal, which was a very important field goal for the alumni. So congratulations to Zach Schmidt. But I don't know. Where do you want to start, Josh? I thought it was a very complete effort today.
That's what stuck out to me was I don't know that there were a lot of superstar performances or anything like that, but I felt like, and it kind of reflected in the report card, there weren't a lot of like 95-plus scores, but there also weren't a lot of like sub-70s. Like it was just a bunch of very good performances, just the guys playing good winning football and doing so play in, play out, and being fairly consistent. Guys, one of the things, and you might have a better feel for it than I did being there, my real question coming into this year, probably the biggest one on the team to me, was pass rush. How are they going to create pressure? And I thought, clearly, if you look at the sack numbers, obviously Reggie Grimes had a huge day. I just thought it was kind of interesting that it seemed like at times they were really doing a nice job creating pressure, and then at times he just had all day. It was just kind of an up and down, day, I guess, from that perspective.
One thing nobody's asking about after this game defensively. Or talking about missed tackles.
Yeah, it sounds so stupid. I've heard Teddy Lehman say this a couple times. It's like, it sounds so stupid, but it shouldn't be a surprise that when you practice tackling in practice,
you're better at it.
Yeah, better tacklers. Like it, 2 and 2 go together, right?
It's SAWFT. Soft.
Oh, I had to do I was like trying to think. I was like, what am I
missing here? Yeah.
No, they did tackle extremely well. And you heard, I think when the depth chart came out and Jaden Davis is starting at cornerback, you go, oh, that's kind of weird. But one of the first things that Brent Venables said on Tuesday was one of the reasons why was because he was consistent at tackling in practice, and you saw that early in the game.
He had the tackle for a loss. It looked like it could have been possibly UTEP trying to set up a double pass because it was so deep, but he was right on top of the receiver when he caught it, dove right in and got both his ankles, and it was a solid tackle. And there was another time he did that. I think it was Lalu followed up, like the guy, he basically was standing him up, and here comes the Lalu just destroyed the guy.
It seemed like there was a lot of gang tackling today. Like
Yeah.
that first ball, the first guy on the ball carrier, he wasn't trying to rip. He wasn't trying to.
We had a Kenneth Murray clothesline tackle today. Like, how long has it been since you've seen something like that from an OU player?
And who would have thought that it was going to be Billy Bowman that did that? And,
well.
Billy Bowman get his hands on footballs early. Danny Stutzman getting his hands on footballs early in the game. Should have had an interception.
First play of the game, I think, right? I mean,
for Bowman,
Bowman
yeah,
broke up, right?
First defensive snap, yeah. And then, Jalen Redmond got his hand on a ball today. Reggie Grimes knocked down a pass. I thought it was a very impressive performance just in terms of it's a foundation for where they need to be or where they want to go.
Yeah, they're not. Nobody's saying this is a finished product. I mean, Brent Venables wasn't saying that. Ted Roof wasn't saying that. But you've established a baseline that says we can actually play and we can get better from here. And I think that's all fans wanted to see today.
Yeah. No, I think that because there were so high expectations for what this team was going to be, what the defense was going to look like, for them to come out as hot as they did in the first quarter too, it was just almost kind of gratifying. It's like, okay, this is moving in the right direction. There were some lulls in the second quarter, obviously, but overall, again, it was very, very acceptable.
Well, Josh, and I think as much as anything with the fans, with everything that's happened this week, 12-team playoffs, the discussions with the Big 12 and and ESPN and Fox, I think a lot of people were going into this game today thinking, like, is this team capable of competing in the SEC, or is Brent going to change this around to where we can, in 2 or 3 years, actually compete in the SEC? And I think if you were going in wondering that, you came out saying, okay, this program is now on track to move to the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, and I'm not stating anything anybody doesn't understand, but you've got to build the talent. I think that is part of what I was talking about when I, was speaking about the consistency. Like, I don't know that you have some of the elite talent that you need, especially in the, kind of in the front four, really. But I think if you continue to build on that and you play with the efficiency that they played with on both sides of the ball for large parts. Again, like you said, not a finished product, not like it's all where it needs to be, but this was a really good starting point. Like there's a lot you can build on from this. There's a lot that I think will help the confidence of that entire roster. And guys, I mean, how long has it been since Oklahoma walked out of a game, even against a lesser opponent, and the defense was like, we can hold our head up high. Like, we can feel pretty good about what we did today. Those performances have been few and far between.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've really, in the last 5 or 6 years, probably the second half of the 2020 season is really the only time you can talk about something like that.
And it never felt like, even against lesser teams, like 3 and outs were a problem. Like 3rd and 16 conversions were a problem. And I never felt today like, oh, they let him out of another 3rd and long.
My dad said it was one of the first things that he said after the game when I talked to him. I called him and he said nobody got behind a defensive back.
Yeah,
which I know it's the first game and I know that UTEP's probably not going to be throwing for 700 yards a game, but there is like a certain level of where this thing is coming from. You got to take baby steps, don't you, to get better each week.
And say what you will about UTEP, that quarterback made some throws today.
Hardison's a decent quarterback.
Yeah. And again, may have been a career day. We may look back and look at it kind of like the Tulane kid that we all thought, oh, he's pretty damn good last year, and then didn't do a lot from that point forward. But today, he made some really nice plays. I mean, the one where he dropped sidearm to throw around Deshaun White.
Yes.
That was a great play. I don't care who you are. There's not a lot of guys that can do that with their arm, and he did it, and he's got some serious velocity. There's stuff to like there. I mean, it won't shock me at all if he's a cup of coffee in the NFL kind of guy.
You'll be able to see it on the sights and sounds that we'll put up on Sunday, but that was an amazing throw from behind, like from the north end zone, looking back into the south end zone for him to drop down into that slot. I was like, oh, shit, that was really nice.
I will say this, Brent's a guy that kind of, I've heard it said of him before, like, he basically invents blitzes. Like, it's just like he comes up with stuff that nobody's ever done before, that he's never done before. And I felt like today was pretty basic from that standpoint. Nothing really exotic from the defense. A lot of the sacks today came from coverage sacks where the quarterback just couldn't get rid of the ball, and he took too long, and eventually a 4-man rush got to him, or they had a 3-man rush with a delayed blitz, I remember one time, and they ended up with a coverage sack. I mean, like, that was something that stood out to me, is like, I don't know the last time I've seen that many coverage sacks from an Oklahoma defense.
I mean, I don't think any of us can remember something like that. I don't think we all. There was a time where I was afraid that was against the rules, like that you couldn't play like that. So, no, I mean, I thought that, and I've seen, I obviously, again, put up the report card for those who haven't read it. Go check it out. It's, I had it out, I think, within about an hour of the game ending on Saturday night. But I had a lot of people like, oh, the secondary was terrible. What? Like, I mean, I'm not saying it was perfect, but terrible? You guys have seen terrible secondaries. This wasn't even close. You had guys making tackles in space. After the first two series, I was like, Billy Bowman's going to get a pick today. Like, He looked great. Like, he was attacking the ball. He was right there in the middle of it. I thought the safety play
had his hands
was really
on a couple
good.
of balls.
Yeah. So it was nowhere near perfect, but it wasn't bad. Like, it was just.
The only time I remember it being just feeling like it was a little getting out of hand was when Trey Morrison was playing safety and Kendall Daniels was playing corner, and they kind of kept running a guy in between them when they were playing zone, and there was two times maybe where they hit on first downs throwing toward that combo, and that was the only time I was like, okay, this just isn't working. Like, it just. They need to change something. They need to take Daniels out, or they need to move Morrison, or whatever. Like, that's the only time I remember even being remotely frustrated at the secondary.
I think that's fair, and I thought of anybody. If I was going to say anybody, I thought struggled a little bit in the secondary. I thought it was Trey Morrison. He was the guy that I thought consistently didn't look like he was sure of what he was doing and just got himself a little out of position at times. And again, it could be due to any of a million things. Like, I'm not going to, write the guy off of one game, but it was like, okay, that's why when you saw him as opposed to Billy Bowman, to me, there was no question who you felt better about having on the field.
Any concern about just not even concern. I thought it was interesting just as far as like the defensive rotations. It does seem like there's a solid second unit in that defensive line group. Kelvin Gilliam played quite a bit today, I thought. And, the cornerback situation, I think, ends up working itself out. I was a little bit surprised. I don't know like what his actual snap count was. I didn't think that DJ Graham was out on the field very much today. For a while, it's like Jaden Davis they took him off the field and let Graham play a lot. And okay.
And he played well. I mean, like, I think that UTEP was a team that looked like if they could find a weakness, they would target it. But they threw that way a couple of times and just nothing happened. And it was almost like he was on the field and wouldn't have to do anything because they just weren't going his way.
Well, I mean, we didn't hear much from Woody Washington, but that's usually a good thing if you're a cornerback. You didn't get your name called a lot, and that means that you were probably doing your job.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those days where everybody was solid in the secondary. And, you got to see Gentry Williams have an interception late in the game, which was
another big play for the alumni.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought they were going to go in and score. I think there were some people that were sweating that one out a little bit.
That was probably the people that were left in the East stands.
Those people are the ones that are just the degenerates, basking in the sun,
They were like, I have to know if I
hold out 32 and a half.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe a team total, which I think OU did get over today as well. So,
but no, and you brought this up earlier, but a lot of freshmen did some nice things today.
There was a lot of guys that flashed.
Now I don't think we saw Kobe McKenzie play at all today, but Jared Kanak had a lot of snaps toward the end of the game. We saw some really cool flashes out of him.
Borderline erotic watching him just run down on kickoff coverage.
That's Kanak.
But the play that really comes to mind is at the end of the game. He's coming in. He gets blocked initially, sheds the block, and still makes the tackle for loss. Or I think was it I think it was just a generic tackle for loss. But either way, I thought that there were some freshmen today. R. Mason Thomas had a nice run there for a while. Obviously, we talked to Anton Harrison and some of those guys that had really praised him. Reggie Grimes really praised him after the game. So
it was interesting seeing R. Mason Thomas. I'm saying that right. It's getting late, and I'm getting punchy, I think.
Robert Montgomery. I believe it's his name.
Mason Thomas.
I don't know where Mason comes from, but Montgomery's his middle name. That was revealed by Reggie Grimes after the game.
Interesting. But, I mean, like, seeing him out there, yeah, he looks like a really young rush end that once he puts on some weight after everything we've heard from him, could be a dominant player.
Stripling didn't do much today.
He was out there quite a bit, though.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, I didn't see him all that much, and I thought maybe they're trying to keep that a little bit under their hat. I didn't know what it was. So
I thought it was pretty equal between Stripling and Downs and Grimes. Obviously, who else am I missing in that defensive end room?
Ethan?
No, Ethan. R. Mason Thomas played quite a few snaps. La'ulu played quite a few snaps. Like, I just felt like everybody on the defensive line got snaps.
Yeah. Oh, they cycled through, and I didn't see anybody that I thought, ooh, he looks out of his depth, or he's not ready to.
Right.
Like I thought there was a bunch of really, like I said earlier, solid performances, guys. There was a point, and I need to look up I don't know what the final stats were. I'm not looking at them right in front of me.
I got them.
There was a point when it was, what did UTEP ended up rushing for 28 yards on 31 carries. Can we think of the last time that you held somebody on the ground like that?
0.9 yards per carry.
It's almost kind of amazing that we can get this far into a post-game recap, and that's just now coming up, right?
Mm-hmm. That's an amazing. They were plus 231 on the ground. If you want to see what the balance is, and there was a point at halftime they were at -4, and OU was at like 130.
Now a lot of that might have had to do with the sacks, right?
Sure, 100%.
Hardison had -34 yards rushing, but they finished with 28 yards rushing. They had a loss of 61 yards in the game.
Mm-hmm. So, it wasn't just his losses. They
double yard losses.
Making some plays.
Double the gains and losses. That's pretty incredible. And Hardison threw the ball 42 times. Like, you could tell that they were like, okay, throwing the ball is about what we need to be doing here because we cannot run the ball. Like coaches talk about making teams one-dimensional all the time. Oh, they ain't done that in a very long time, making a team one-dimensional.
There were points in that game, and especially when it gets to 21-10, that, I don't want to put anybody through PTSD, but I think that, like, even I was sitting down there, it's like, they need to kind of go score here and, like, extend this a little bit because of the situation they were in a year ago with Tulane. It's hard not to remember where they're coming from as far as blowing leads, not being impressive, not being able to put teams away. And they were able to do that today. And I think that's kind of a sigh of relief that you go, okay, that's a step in the right direction. They know how to play a little bit with a lead. They were able to put it together drives there, especially in the third quarter, to extend themselves and not let UTEP get back into the game. And especially defensively, when there has been points in the past, couple of years where maybe UTEP does hit a 3rd and 11 and they extend that drive. And then all of a sudden you look up and it's 28-17 or 28, God forbid, 28-21, whatever.
I think we all kind of agree that the defense, it was what we thought it needed to be.
Sure.
Like,
it's a starting point.
Not disappointed. It's a starting point, as you're saying. And I think the thing that we were most interested in, though, is what was this offense going to look like? Sure. And, I think we all knew Dylan Gabriel, successful quarterback in the past, all these new receivers, Marvin Mims, Theo Weiss, Jalil Farouk, Drake Stoops, how that would work out, Braden Willis. Like, what's this going to look like? And then offensive line-wise, how physical are they? How do they play together? Because we've seen this year after year, like Bill Bedenbaugh takes several games to get his offensive line kind of humming. And I would say overall, I feel better about the offense than I do the defense, although I don't feel bad about the defense. I just feel like the explosive plays, it would have been like if the defense came out and had like 3 interceptions today. Like that's how good maybe I'm not giving the offense enough credit because that's the most explosive offense, 21-0 in the first quarter. I haven't seen that type of explosion since Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray.
It's so weird because you go like defensively. I think it's been so bad over the last couple of years. You have like this baseline of like, can they tackle? Can they execute fundamentals? Are they going to get beat? Are they going to give up big plays? And then offensively, it's almost flipped because they have been historically so good over the last 5 years. Maybe not so much as the last 2.
Is it kind of like, I don't know, Josh, is it kind of like if you have terrible children and they go to a birthday party and you're just hoping that they don't like break stuff?
Maybe my kids aren't so bad when you see the little bullshit snot-nosed kids like really causing hell inside the McDonald's play place.
There is no greater joy than realizing you don't have the worst kids in a particular room. Like that's an amazing feeling. So yeah. I mean, there's something to that where you're like, okay, like whatever else is, that's not mine. That problem's not mine. So yeah, I think that's what you're talking about. Where even if it's something so simple, hey, there's a silver lining there. Like you can take some solace in that, and it's crazy that at a place like Oklahoma that this is the point, we as media and the fans have gotten to, like, just tackle. Just let's just start with tackling. Like let's go from there.
And that's where OU fans have been. Like they've been stuck in the low expectations, happy to have someone just not tell them to go screw themselves.
Guys, I mentioned it in a prior conversation. I mean, definitely not on a previously recorded pod, but the play by Jordan Kelly where he just rips through the offensive lineman and makes that tackle for loss in the first quarter, guys, that felt like a big thing, and it shouldn't. Like that should just be, hey, that's a good senior player that knows what he's doing and he makes a play. Like, but we haven't seen stuff like that. Like that just hasn't. And for all, and guys like Isaiah, and I don't want to disparage Isaiah and Perrion and some of those guys because they've made plenty of good plays, but that was just a fundamentally sound play. It wasn't like, oh, this guy's a freakish talent and made an amazing play here. He did something that he had really refined and worked on, and he made a play. And it was just like, oh, okay, that's a thing. Like you can maximize who you are,
Is that the value of Todd Bates right there?
I think you almost have to say it is. The thing that to me I come away with is, in talking to some of my buddies, I know Eddie mentioned talking to his dad, and I was talking to some of my buddies after the game. The thing that would excite me as an OU fan would be these guys are going to get better. Like the things you're seeing, the Billy Bowman moments that are good or the Danny Stutzman moments, they're going to improve. Like this isn't one of those things where Jordan Thomas looks great as a freshman. Gentry Williams and that pick, that's not going to be Gentry Williams' last great moment. Like,
hell, Danny
there's
Stutzman.
going to be more.
Danny Stutzman
makes plays that you go, if this is just the taste of what it could be, it's really going to be exciting when he becomes a veteran type player. And
what I want to say
is said it after the game.
What I want to say is Danny Stutzman he's a natural linebacker.
Yeah.
What about David Agwebu?
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's just learning how to be a real linebacker. And remember the conversations we were having with him the other day about Brent and his kind of sadistic need for people to be perfect in every little thing that they do, and like how David Agwebu likes that. Like he's still learning how to play the position. And he looked damn good today.
He just moves so much better with all that lost weight. But, like, Danny, you can tell, like, and Josh, I think you said it earlier, it's like they are probably not where they want to be depth-wise at linebacker, but there are flashes, and there were flashes today of whether it be Agwebu or Stutzman, that you can really buy into what this future could be or what the ceiling could be for that linebacker group.
Oh, if the world is not prepared for me to dunk on them with Danny Stutzman, you are sad. You're looking at the wrong guy. I plan to tell you I told you so a whole hell of a lot. So, speaking of Eddie, you had an I told you in the middle of the game, and I'm blanking on what that was because I literally, you tweeted it, and I was gonna do almost the exact same tweet on your behalf, and I can't remember who it was. Somebody made a play.
The new pride of the BLC, the new pride of the 405, Heritage Hall graduate himself,
of course,
Mr. Gavin Freeman.
Yes.
If we want to kind of transition into the offensive side of the football, I thought that was so cool. The first touch for a kid that grew up in Oklahoma. Obviously, Jason, his dad, played at Oklahoma. I grew up like idolizing Jason Freeman in my backyard, and for his son to come now and be the guy that kind of turned in one of the big highlight plays of the day offensively. That was really cool, and it was also really cool because we had heard that like Gavin had made waves during the summer during 7-on-7.
One of the better workout guys there was.
Yeah, and then for him to go out and they put in packages for him to be able to do that, it was like, okay, this is going to be a kind of a thing for Gavin Freeman and the Oklahoma offense, and it was just cool to talk to him after the game, although I did almost have to hit him because somebody asked him, like, what was one of his first memories of watching Oklahoma football? And he said it was coming with his family and watching Sterling Shepard play football at Oklahoma. And I was just like, oh, God, I am so old right now. But it was really
Those
cool.
come in waves.
That really kind of messed me up, though, when he said that one of his favorite memories as a child was watching Sterling Shepard play football at Oklahoma. That really kind of cut deep with me. But it was really cool. What a great run. I think that everybody pointed it out at the time. Braden Willis is downfield blocking. Jalil Farouk's downfield blocking. Really just a really great play. And, a lot of fun, obviously, for somebody that likes cheering for the Oklahoma City kids.
You know what I think people at Heritage Hall need?
What? I don't know where this is going. What?
Lexuses.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about need, but could absolutely.
They
take
should
on a few
have
more.
a Lexus.
Yeah.
Eskridge Lexus, our very proud partner of an official travel partner. They're very proud. Man, it is getting late. Eskridge Lexus is very proud to be the official travel partner. This is written by Ed Eskridge, by the way. This is not me putting words in Ed Eskridge's mouth. Very proud to be the official travel partner and sponsor of the Sooner Scoop postgame pod and even the drunken postgame pod should the situation arrive. And everybody kind of knows this that's been trying to buy a car lately, especially in the luxury car market. The new car inventories are still pretty limited, but they are improving, and Eskridge has more new vehicles arriving every week. I went through this myself, and basically, kind of if you know what you want, like if you've been an ES driver, you've been an LX driver, you've been an IS driver, as I am, you can go in and just meet with Ed and say, hey, can you tell me kind of what's coming in, colors, addition sizes, whatever, like, and let me know and let me get my financing in order and all this stuff. And then when the cars come in, you can get in line for one. And they're really great about that with the low inventory. They've also been stocking up on Lexus L certified pre-owned vehicles, which anyone that's ever had a Lexus knows some of the most reliable cars that you can buy. L certified cars also come with 4 free services, free car washes, and use of brand new Lexus loaner vehicles while your cars are in the service department. Not because they break down, but because sometimes you want to get a scheduled, 15, 20,000 mile service, and they let you have a car to drive around, especially like if you live in Norman and you go all the way up to Oklahoma City. So visit EskridgeLexus.com. Most up-to-date inventories are there. Or to book your next service appointment, which I have to do because I have a free 10,000-mile complimentary car service with my new Lexus IS 350 F Sport. So thank you to Ed. Thank you to Eskridge Lexus for being a big part of the postgame pod.
The drunken podcast or the drunken postgame pods, it's not up to me. Like, it's up to the OU football team, and it's up to the players on the team to give us something to talk about. So if they want to play bad, I will deliver. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want a drunken pod because that means like you lost to Kansas.
Yes, that would have been worse than a drunken pod. I would have gotten kicked out of the press box in Lawrence.
Last year, didn't we do a quasi-drunken pod even after they beat Kansas just because being that close to losing to Kansas is
No,
because
Eddie and I did that pod driving on the turnpikes.
That's
we recorded that on the...
Where?
In Kansas. After they did... we're down at
that was
halftime.
K-State.
No, that was K-State because I almost got kicked out of the Kansas press box when we were doing the podcast last year. The guy came up and told me to be quiet, the Kansas SID, because I was yelling that the Kansas quarterback couldn't start in intramurals for the Fijis.
Okay. So it was Kansas State, yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, little love for the Jayhawks, 56-10 over Tennessee Tech.
Hey, I don't know what it says about.
Step.
I don't know what it says about the Tennessee Tech football program when you're a 32.5-point underdog on a Friday night in Lawrence. But
Lance
teach their own.
Leopold, can I call my shot right now? Lance Leopold, the next head coach of LSU. Because
you're already done with Brian Kelly?
Because when Brian Kelly fails, they're going to be mad that they didn't get Billy Napier. Yeah. And they're going to say, that dude is just like Billy Napier. We need that dude.
It was a good win for Billy Napier tonight, knocking off Utah in Gainesville. Anthony
that was a fun game to watch. I don't know how much.
By the way,
it was the second half, Josh. I mean, the back and forth, the punches between those two teams. That was we've been kind of blessed here in this first week of college football that there's been some really good football games.
By the way, I want to. I'll give a little shout out to my good friends at the Pat McAfee podcast or Pat McAfee show. They're Lou Holtz, not
so good,
not being written back by Brian Kelly.
So good.
With all the letters he sent back, that was some of the finest.
That's 5 minutes of radio audio
that I've ever heard. Yeah,
it was really good. Offensively, running backs.
Oh boy, you want me to get into my running back spiel?
Let's go through the spiel. Let's go through the entire spiel.
So, look,
maybe or maybe not again.
I like Eric Gray. I think he has a lot of value in that running back room as a leader, as a guy that you want out on the edge. And I think he can be really good between the tackles at times, but to me, Eric Gray, after a year and one game, I am not ready to say that he's a feature back worthy of being at the University of Oklahoma. We saw last year, Kennedy Brooks was the better back. And if we may or may not have done a pod before this one that didn't record, I may have challenged you guys to name who he is better than in the last decade, 2 decades as a running back at Oklahoma, where you're like, yeah, he's better than him. And the only guys I think you can come up with are Dom Whaley and possibly Chris Brown, although they're two completely different types of runners. Chris Brown was an inside runner.
Brennan
Clay, but was he a starting feature back out of anything but injury?
I know what you mean, and I don't know if that would qualify, but yes.
I think he's better than Brennan and more explosive than Brennan.
Sure.
I think he's more explosive than Chris Brown. I think he's more explosive than Dom Whaley. Outside of that, Rodney Anderson was a better back.
Oh, 100%.
I'm just thinking of like Joe Mixon, Samaje Perine,
sure,
Kennedy Brooks,
sure.
I mean, there's probably some like Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon. Is he more like a Trey Sermon?
Yeah, it's pretty close. I mean,
is it kicking
different kinds of players?
Is it kicking the can down the road if you say that there's not we haven't seen enough of Eric Gray to really?
Here's the thing. I think that there's a gear that Eric Gray has, but he has to find it. He has to find that gear that says, I'm not always going to run towards space. Yeah. Like, I'm going to run towards and through contact. And I just don't think he's built like that, but he needs to find that part of his running back game.
I thought he opened strong. There was just some lulls there in the second quarter. Like the first quarter where he breaks off the long run, and then he also has the reception that put him in the red zone.
Right.
Those are 2 plays that you go, okay, this is what you've kind of signed up for.
But he also is given the ball at the 2-yard line 2 plays in a row and can't punch it in, and Marcus Major does it on the very next play.
Should that be a play, though, that he's not put in? Should that just automatically go to
I'm glad they gave
Marcus
it to
Major?
him. I think we have to find this out.
Sure,
it's the perfect opportunity. Like, he didn't hurt anybody by doing it, but he didn't do it. And now we know he didn't. And against a team that North Texas ran all over last week.
Yeah. Well, and
that could be on the offensive line too. I mean,
the good news is, though, it's very apparent that there's a running back behind him that's going to continue to push him, right?
Which one are we talking about?
Marcus Major.
Oh,
I thought Marcus Major.
not the freshman.
Yeah, I mean, Josh, didn't you think Marcus Major? I know that you were really high on him, even in the U40 this past week. As far as he's a guy that when you talked about the Jeff Levy offense, it's nearly a perfect fit. And I thought today you saw shades of him getting more and more comfortable.
Yeah, I just love the way he fits and plays in that offense, the way he's such a downhill guy. He's going to pick up yardage. He's going to keep the chains moving. Guys, it's watching this offense when it's really clicking makes me think back to, and you don't see it as much anymore, but like in college basketball, like in the 90s, like the Nolan Richardsons, the stuff. Well, the thing that, even in Billy Tubbs, like you can't run high pressure, full court press stuff if you're not scoring baskets. Like you gotta, they've got to take the ball out so you can reset and do your defense the way you want. And that's the same way I look at this offense. Like you've got to be making positive yardage to keep the pressure on that defense. Like nobody cares if you quick snap and it's 2nd and 13. Like, okay, cool, man. Like you're doing your thing here, but you're starting behind the 8 ball. So I think he is really good in terms of he's going to just fall forward. Worst case, you're going to break even. It's going to be 2nd and 10, or it's going to be 2nd and 8. Like he's not going to hurt you dancing around and making decisions. And I didn't think Eric Gray was that bad about that tonight. And I did want to say something Carey said earlier, and I know he's talked before already. It's a little late for all of us, and being a little punched. I think Carey said something along the lines of like doesn't deserve to be at OU, and he just meant as the feature back. Like I don't want people to misunderstand and say like Carey said he shouldn't be.
He definitely has a place in the offense. Yeah.
Just you're debating whether he should be a feature type guy, and I think that's fair. And it leads into the other part, and I'll let everybody knows I'm a big Javonte Barnes fan, but. Man, just watching him tonight, the twitch on him is just different than anybody. I could argue anybody else in that offense. Like he explodes in and out of his cuts.
Well, and see, here's the problem, and we saw this a year ago. Like if Eric Gray's your feature back and he's getting all the carries, and he got double the carries of anybody else tonight. If he's going for 5 on you're incomplete on 1st down, you run on 2nd down, he gets 5. Because he runs through the middle and he just, or he tries to run around the edge. But then you're in 3rd and 5. And all of a sudden, you're in danger of a 3 and out. Like, you need a running back that's going to get you 6-7. Like, if you're going to run it between the tackles against an inferior team. To me, that's, and what was it tonight? 7.7, I think, that Marcus Major averaged. Which Eric Gray had
7.7,
really good average.
Eric Gray averaged 6.4.
He was 6'4". I mean, yeah.
Javonte Barnes averaged 6'2".
Anything above 4 is
Gavin
winning
Freeman
winning
46,
football.
but that's no big deal.
Yeah, Gavin Freeman's 46 is pretty strong.
No, the offensive line, I thought that they played well, but obviously there was some stuff that they can clean up here over the course of the next couple weeks. And what did you think about Tyler Guyton starting in place of Wanya Morris today?
I liked him. Like again, and I mentioned a little bit on Twitter. There was a moment in the 3rd quarter. It's just a throwaway ball from Dylan Gabriel down in that southeast corner, but there's a play, and it just like I said, and it's not anything that people have to go and watch or something. It's not super amazing from an analytical standpoint, but it's just a pass. It's a throw, and he kind of lunges out to the defender, knocks him down. I mean, just kind of staggers him and does it with his first punch. And he's so quick to get out on the guy. And you're like, wow, that's just athleticism and length and all this strength that you don't usually see. But then he does it to such a degree that he almost knocks himself, like he's off balance. And then the defender's kind of able to redirect and get around him. And I don't think he ended up making the play, but I want to say he applied a little pressure to Gabriel on the play. So, and again, more than anything, I think it's indicative of where he's at. Like, there is supreme talent there, and there are flashes of it that you see, and then at the same time, you're like, that's like basic O-line 101 stuff that he's breaking the rules of. Like, whatever else you do, you got to keep your base. You got, like that's just simplistic stuff. And it's not that he doesn't know it. It's just, him getting used to doing it and staying within himself, snap in and snap out. That's going to come. Like, there is a world in which he goes out and dominates this Kent State team I'm watching right now, and Wanya Morris never gets his job back. I mean, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. He is that talented. But at the same time, he's got to clean up a lot.
Brent Venables did talk about the Wanya Morris situation after the game. He didn't really shed any more light on it, just said that it was an off-the-field thing that they've been working on. Wanya did practice this week, though. I don't think it's going to be a long-term situation, just to kind of clear the air.
I think most of us have heard a couple of weeks, which, you get him back for Nebraska. That's
which would be interesting.
As long as his job hasn't been taken. I mean,
are they going to throw him into a situation where he's starting all of a sudden in Lincoln, Nebraska in the third week of the season?
I don't, from like Josh said, I don't think Kent State's going to give you exactly warm and fuzzies about your starting lineup if they play particularly well in that game. I think you're still going to have some questions like, is this the real thing?
Sure.
Or not? Look, it's late. We're running time. Here's what I want. We're going to talk about a couple more things here, but feel free when we post this podcast, say, hey, you didn't talk about this. Please talk about the unofficial 40. Like, I know we got to get to special teams and stuff like that. And just real quick, could not have been happier to see Billy Bowman take 2 kickoffs out of the end zone and try and return them. It's been that was automatic. If it went into the end zone under Lincoln Riley, it was a touchback. Fair catch, take a knee. It was nice to see that. But we haven't really talked about Dillon Gabriel and our impressions of him. I kind of wanted to do that, and I'll let you guys start. But on the night, a nice night, 15-23, 233 yards, 2 TDs. I really felt like if they wanted to press the situation tonight, they could have got him 300 for his opener, no problem. But like you said, they had a couple of 3-and-outs back to back. Jeff Lebby talked about all that in the post game. It's kind of like with everything else. No one feels like they're completely happy with what they saw, but it was enough for them to make themselves feel like they've taken a good first step. But Dillon Gabriel, you guys your thoughts on what you saw tonight.
Go for it, Josh.
I just thought he was incredibly steady. Like, it was just, he never looked, and again, I think the thing, and I own this myself, so I'm sure some OU fans were probably feeling the same way. You've got to readjust your clock a little bit because we're so used to just, the air raid and the whole Leach and Riley scheme where it's just, boom, boom, gone. The ball, there's almost no time to create any pressure because the ball's out so fast. And that's just the way it works. But with this vertical, attack downfield style of play, there's going to be moments like there were in that second quarter where he got sacked a couple times or had some, at least, got hit a little bit, had some pressure in his face. That's going to happen sometimes because they hang on to the ball a little longer. He's waiting for these longer routes to develop, waiting to see, if Marvin Mims or whoever it may be is going to open up down the field. So there's going to be some times where he looks, I don't want to say out of sorts, but it doesn't look like it's going right, and it's just the reality of football. The longer you hold on to the ball, the more chance you have of getting hit. So I think you're going to see a little bit of that, and people have to get used to it. But
hey, real quick,
I never thought he was out of sorts.
On that point, don't we kind of have the feeling now after watching a first game that Dillon Gabriel wants to throw the long ball, but he mainly wants to throw it to Marvin Mims and Jalil Farouk? Didn't you get that feel tonight? Like those are his safety busters. I think that's how he sees those two guys. Am I wrong in that?
I don't think so. And they just missed. He just missed them today.
But he didn't miss Mims every time. I mean,
Farouk was open a couple times, and he just missed him. I'm talking like the long vertical throws.
Yes.
But they really, for the most part, didn't take a whole lot of shots either. I mean, they took a handful of them. I thought that they were going to take a couple
sacked on some
more.
of the shots that they were trying to take.
I kind of walked away like being somewhat in like a very weird way, like almost kind of disappointed with the receiving group today. But I understand that it's going to be a work in progress, and like I'm not making any bold
no one can live up to your
proclamations.
Gavin Freeman.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They need to play more. Just throw the ball down to Gavin Freeman every time. No, it was
screwing around.
It was. I was slight. Like, can I be disappointed with the vertical game today? In saying that, I understand that it's going to be a work in progress.
Or are you just an asshole?
I'm probably just an asshole, but both can be true.
I think say where do I vote?
No, I mean, from what I saw, it's kind of what I expected. It was nice seeing that first series where it was 4. They get backed up by 2 penalties, then 4 plays from the 4-yard line into the end zone. That was impressive, and he throws a nice deep ball. It's what I expected. I would like to see Drake Stoops more involved. I'd like to just see more short stuff across the middle involved. But, guys, maybe that's the tough thing with Dylan Gabriel, that because of his size, throwing over the middle is something that he knows that he needs to avoid a little bit. And I did notice he had some slants over the middle. At least a couple were behind the receiver where he might have been able to throw them open, but instead he allowed the defensive back to kind of get a hand in and break up that pass. There you go.
Yeah.
My analysis sucked.
No,
That's what you're saying.
No, I was waiting for.
I
Josh
know.
to
I was
jump
trying
in.
to picture a moment. I think
it's because I'm up in the press box looking at the replays and stuff a lot more. So
There. It just seemed like it was a very clean performance. Like the one thing that I would say was like the interception at the goal line, not a big deal. It was swiped away because of a pass interference, obviously. Maybe not the best idea to throw it there. Although, did he get interfered with?
he is
I was
not afraid to throw into
tight.
double coverage.
I was in tight
Yeah.
there on that shot. So
I mean,
didn't really see.
that's the one thing I took from it. He's not afraid to throw into double coverage. Now, you don't want to throw into triple and quadruple coverage. That's where you get in trouble. But he definitely feels like if he's got a receiver with some jets, he'll throw that into double coverage and hope his guy comes out the other end.
Which, to be honest, isn't that what we were asking for of the previous quarterbacks? Like, put a little
Exactly.
faith
Yeah.
in Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
believe your guy's going to go make a play.
And for it to be this early in the process, I think is probably that's a good sign, right? I mean, he hadn't played in a game with a bunch of these guys before, and to have that trust that you need to develop in a game or in practice or just throwing on their own. I think that it's kind of like the defensive side of the football. There are a lot of positives that you go, good foundation. I want to see a little bit more in week 2. And then I want to see a little bit more in week 3. And so on and so on. And especially as you get into the K-State, TCU, Texas's, that middle portion of the schedule, a.k.a. the beginning of conference play.
By the way, I hadn't looked at it, and I even ever since the game was over, I thought I want to look at that and see what it is. But UTEP 5 of 15 on third downs, not bad. We've seen a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we've seen better conversion rates on third and long than that. So
Yeah.
that's no. And again, the quarterback made some plays, man. I mean, there were some moments where I thought Oklahoma's coverage was fine. Thought they created some pressure, and boy, he made some outstanding throws. The receivers made a couple of great catches. That one where the guy went up and got it on a 3rd and 11 or something. That was just a great throw, a great catch. I mean, I don't care I don't think Alabama's stopping that play. Like, it was well executed.
By the way, and I did mean OU's defense held UTEP to 5 of 15. OU just 3 and 8 on third down conversions. They were 1-on-1 on fourth. But here was the impressive part for OU. And you mentioned it, Eddie. What was it? 10 possessions, 6 scores.
10 possessions, 6 scores, 6 touchdowns, kicked a field goal.
They were 4 of 5 or 5 of 5 in the red zone today.
Perfect.
I mean, that's all you can ask for. 4 touchdowns and a field goal.
They should have tacked on the touchdown there at the end. I mean, Javonte Barnes is walking into the end zone and it gets called back on a hold.
Yeah.
Was it on Marcus Hicks maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, I was
Savion
coming
Bird.
down to the field.
Yep. You're right. 59.
Yep.
It was Savion.
And it completely valid call. Savion just grabs him like he he had somebody on his right shoulder, and they brought a blitzer to his left gap, and he couldn't deal with both, and so he knew he just needed to stop the guy for a split second, and he just, But the thing on that play, and it just stood out to me. It was one of those funny things. Javonte Barnes, as soon as he takes that ball, you can see his body language. He knew he was going to score like that. He just has a burst that nobody else in that backfield has now.
Yeah. All right. I think that's going to do it. Like I said, we'd like to be more thorough. I'll just admit it. We did a podcast before this one, and I didn't record it. Again.
It was a low point for you. I thought you were either going to cry or break everything in the studio.
I really thought about, at first I felt like I needed to cry, but then I wanted to break everything.
Yeah, it was a
range of emotions.
It was a tumultuous moment.
The problem is we have Ethernet audio, and so I've been testing that in the other room, and I forgot that.
Yeah.
So I unplugged some stuff, and I unplugged the recorder.
If we could have had that on video, that it was a moment for sure.
How do I know that you didn't snap that somewhere?
Huh?
How do I know that you didn't snap that somewhere?
I didn't. I promise.
One of the toughest things is never knowing if it's better that I'm not there or worse that I'm not there. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm like, I've got to hear it and I can't do anything to help. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't have to be there and just see like the pure anger.
I mean, I got all of
I'm just glad that I wasn't part of a murder-suicide.
I got all of my my recording issues fixed from the weekend. We're building another computer. Like, I thought things were getting better on the technology side of things. Bob's camera was great tonight.
Yeah, we were good.
He charged his recorder. Like, we rebounded until tonight.
It was a good pod too.
It was better than this one.
Yeah,
probably.
it was. It 100% was. That's okay though. Hey, it's preseason for everybody, or somewhat of a preseason, first run through for everything. And I thought, kind of just in closing, I thought it was a really cool day for Brent Venables. That's
it really
something
was.
that he talked about after the game. It was cool seeing them take the family picture down in the south end zone with the scoreboard in the background. It was cool that his daughter brought in the game ball that Joe C gave him after the game into the Red Room for post-game interviews. So
yeah, if you haven't seen the video of Joe C presenting him with a game ball, you need to go look at the OU football account on Twitter.
Really cool.
Awesome.
And I think that it was kind of the culmination of 30 years as an assistant that kind of peaked today with the way that this team went out and played for him. And obviously, I think the start of what could be a fun year, obviously, and maybe a fun era of Oklahoma football, because they really kind of sold into that. I thought it was interesting that they really kind of sold into the new era. I don't know, maybe taking a shot at the predecessor, but it was kind of interesting.
The video intro was good today. I thought.
It was really good. It was really cool.
I enjoyed it. All right, Josh, thank you for staying up late with us, a little after midnight here in Norman. Also want to say thanks to everybody. I know we weren't inviting anyone, but for all you that stopped by this weekend just to say hi or want to buy a shirt, we do appreciate that. We'll try and figure something out for game day. And met Sooner Stealth today from the board as I was coming in to grab the extra camera and stuff, and the alarm was going off. I was trying to be so nice that the alarm started going off because he got me right as I was opening the door.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had to turn that off. But we've had, just great people come and visit us over the weekend, and we want to have something, and maybe even get Josh here where we can invite people to come in and check things out and buy some merch and things like that. So I'll just say this. We're not a store. Like, that's the one thing. I know we have an online store, but we're not built to be a store. Like, we don't even have bags to put, merch in when we sell it to you. We just have to hand it to you. All of our stuff is just for shipping.
Blue collar. We're blue collar over here.
Oh, yes. I can't. Is white collar? Those are rich people,
That's
right?
the type of crime we want to do.
White collar. All right, that's going to do it. We're going to get out of here. And like I said, bitch at us on the boards if we miss stuff that you wanted to hear us talk about. We'll talk about it on the Unofficial 40. We don't mind you guys coming after us.
Zach Schmidt's the king. He made everybody winner today with the cover, so we're good. Him and Gentry Williams.
Yes, Gentry Williams had a big part of that.
He had shades of Oklahoma people all over the place. Bishop McGinnis, Heritage Hall, Booker T. Washington, Weatherford, It was nice. Good day for the Sooners.
And you know they can all go to Eskridge Lexus and buy a Lexus now. All right.
Give it to them. It's NIL.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back again next week for another Eskridge Lexus post-game pod right here on Soonerscoop.com.